Hi, it's Kathy Baldwin. One of the things I love most about doing this podcast is that it allows me to sit down with incredible people from all over the world. It seems like every conversation opens up a new perspective, a new truth, and just a reminder of how truly connected we are. In today's episode of Unlearn the Crap and Level Up, I get to share a conversation with Hanna Kok, who joins me from South Africa. Hanna is a medical intuitive, and do you know what struck me most about her? Was the way she blends her wisdom with practical healing. Hanna knows the depths of suffering. She's experienced the unimaginable loss of her husband when he was murdered. And yet, she also knows with absolute clarity that the true source of our power lies within us. Hanna has a gift for seeing beyond symptoms into the stories that our bodies hold and showing us how we can reclaim our strength, alignment, and wholeness. This isn't just another interview. It's an invitation to listen to your body in a new way, to trust the wisdom within, and to discover the power that's been there all along. Let's dive into this powerful conversation with Hanna Kok.
Welcome to Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Unlearn the Crap TV is more than just a show. It's a movement towards breaking free from the disempowering structures designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. It's about education, healing, and unlearning the detrimental beliefs that have been ingrained in society for generations. So now, please welcome the host of Unlearn the Crap TV, Kathy Baldwin.
Welcome to another episode of Unlearn the Crap and Level Up. Your soul is calling. I'm your host, Kathy Baldwin. And for those of you who are new to the podcast, let me just explain what CRAP actually is. CRAP is an acronym. It is a short form for condition responses and automatic programming. That programming will come from how our brain processes our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our beliefs. It's also part of our ancestral DNA, what we've been brought up in culturally in our society and our family memes. When it is crap, it is disempowering to us. And that is the point of unlearning. But it is also a physical component. Just like everything in our world is both energetic and physical, the physical manifestations are designed to go through our body, through our systems, through our digestive system, through our lymphatic system, and all the other systems that we have to process those chemicals, that physical manifestation of what is happening within our thoughts and feelings. When we do not address the crap in our thoughts and feelings, our behaviors and our habits, we will have the disease that's created from changing our gut microbiome. It will increase our inflammation. It does make us sick. It is a precursor to almost every single disease. And so it is absolutely imperative in this time of massive change that we are going through that we all learn to address and identify the crap that is taking us out and unlearn it so that we can level up. I am so excited to have Hanna Kok with us here today, and we're going to discuss that very thing. Hanna, thank you so much for being here. Could you please begin this conversation by telling me and our audience what crap you had to unlearn so that you could level up?
The crap that I had to unlearn, and I think it will be an ongoing process because this crap comes in different layers, is being the victim.
Mm.
Playing the victim, getting attention by pretending to be the victim, feeling sorry for yourself. That's the crap that I have had to unlearn. And I think every day there's still layers of it, but I have come a long way already. So as a child, I'm one number five out of six children. So you had to find a way to be noticed. And that's how I learned that if I pretended to be the victim, being weak and vulnerable, that was my way of getting attention. And then I realized, but this is making me unhappy. I
Mm.
cannot be who I want to be. And then it actually culminated in a situation where we really were the victim, where I lost my husband in a armed robbery. And then I realized I cannot afford to be a victim now because I have a young child. And if I'm going to play the victim here, then my son would have lost both parents that night. So that is how I had to level up, definitely.
Wow. I honor you sharing such a vulnerable story, and I can't wait for us to unpack it and really get into the depths of this conversation. But before we do that, could you please tell the audience who you are and how you serve the world now that you've leveled up after unlearning that crap?
Right. Well, I am a spiritual being in a bodysuit, to be truthful, but at the same time, I do have a profession as well. So I'm an educational kinesiologist, a medical intuitive, and an allergy practitioner. And I was very fortunate that some of that training I already had before my husband passed. And it was for me an opportunity to start saying, you know what? It's time to start doing this work because my husband and I had been talking about why are we making a living instead of making a life. And so when he
Mm.
passed, it was like, it's time for me to make a life and do this work so that I can live the legacy for both of us. And that's what I've been doing since. I've been uh, keep on growing, seeing clients, develop courses, etc., just to continue with making a life for myself and for others in the process.
Wow. You took a tragedy that could have taken a lot of people out of their element. A lot of people that would have stopped them in their tracks. But you took this tragedy, this horrible situation that happened to you, and turned it into a purpose and used that energy to fuel something really good out of it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It is an example of how our trash becomes our treasure, or what they say, your mess becomes your message. And
Yeah.
definitely, for me, if I think of what the key is of all my work, and I mean, you were saying in your introduction of how our unresolved crap turns into illnesses. Well, the way to prevent that is through forgiveness. And that is what I had to learn as well. Because, in my situation, they knew who the people were, nobody was ever caught. And um, I had to forgive them, but also myself in the process. Because, I believe we always play a role in everything that happens to us. And I have to forgive myself for that role as well. And I now feel that I am an authority on forgiveness. So I really turn this into an asset, not being boasting about it, but it has given me some credibility that I know what forgiveness can be about. And when you want to let go of your crap, it is so important to forgive yourself for having stuck with it for so long, for believing in it, for taking long to let go of it, for piling up new crap, buying into that. There's always some. brown stuff to shovel, and we have to forgive ourselves in that process. So,
Absolutely. I love what you have just said in so many different ways. I'm doing a series right now on my Unlearning Curve segment called The Archetypes. And one of the archetypes I first talk about are the survivor archetypes, and that the victim is in there. We all have this archetype as part of our personality. It just comes with being human. The question is, how advanced is it? How dominant is it in our lives? I love the fact that you're probably the only guest that I've had on the show so far who has openly acknowledged that that was the crap that they were carrying. And so that makes me very excited to be able to discuss this and unpack this with you. But I want to start with forgiveness because you said your husband was killed, he was shot. And we discussed that that is something that could have taken you down and out. I have heard so many people say that they cannot forgive
mhm.
because it almost feels like it grants permission. That if they give forgiveness, that they're in fact saying it was okay what happened. Could you please explain your definition of what forgiveness means and how you implemented it in such a dark moment?
Right. So how I look at, I agree with you that, or I agree that forgiveness is actually not about condoning behavior. I want to say that very clear. It's never about condoning the behavior. However, in my situation, when, I mean, you must remember, I now, just to paint a picture what the scenario was. I'm from the Netherlands originally. I moved to a little country called Lesotho, which is a mountain kingdom inside of South Africa. We lived in a little village, no phone, no radio. Well, we had radio contact, that was it, but no phone or anything to communicate with the outside world. And so when this happened, I couldn't contact anybody. I had to drive 30 kilometers to go and get help. Now, why did I tell you that? Is let me just backtrack a little. Is Yes, I remember now. What happened, what was so amazing, that just a few days after he passed, a book arrived in the post, written by a friend of mine about death and dying. She had sent it 2 weeks before his death via post, arrived in my post box. And as I was reading in that book, it said that on a soul level, people decide 3 days before they die that they're going to die. So,
Wow.
and when we looked in his diary, 3 days before he died, he had written, I'm so stuck, it's time to move on. He never, of course, intended to like leave this plane, but he was stuck. And how often do you hear that people somehow knew they were going to die and got their house in order and changed a whole lot of things
Mm,
before they died? So
yeah.
now his death is not an accident then. Maybe it was a part of a deal, part of, because we were feeling stuck. We were
Yeah.
running a trading station. We sold everything from napkins to coffins and what you need in between. We used it all. And um, and now we didn't like doing it. We wanted to change our lives, make a life by starting a retreat center or something like that. But we just got stuck in the process and we did not know how to get unstuck. So with
Yeah.
his death, the whole situation broke open because this business that we were running was a family trading business. So his family had been running this trading station for over 100 years. So you can't just sell and leave. It's a family tradition there that you. So we were feeling really stuck. And with
Yeah.
his death, it broke everything open. So I focused on what's the good that has come out of this. And that is why I could forgive. And the reason, as you said before, our crap becomes an illness. I, if you don't forgive, as Carolyn May says, it's like trying to kill somebody while drinking the poison yourself. It's
Yeah.
a For the people that don't know how to forgive or don't want to forgive, there's a muscle test that you can do. If you have a second person, you stick your arm out and you get a person to push really hard on your hand while you think of something nice, and then do it again while you think of something of the person that you don't want to forgive, and you'll see that arm is coming down. You cannot hold that arm up no matter how many revenge or hate thoughts you have thinking that it's fueling you, but it is draining your energy. And
Yeah.
I often have to do this with clients, and then I say, do you realize you're just giving your life force to the person you least want to have it?
Mm. Oh, is that a mic drop powerful statement right there?
Mm. And that person that you don't want to forgive, I've had clients, that person could be in the grave. So that person was still having hold over my client from the grave. And
Talk about powerlessness and victimhood.
exactly. So
Yeah.
forgiveness is all about claiming your power back, saying, you know what? I don't like what happened. I don't have to like what happened, but I accept it happened. And if you want to take it
Yes.
even, and if you want
Yes,
to
yes,
even,
yes. Yeah, that's exactly. I want to stop right there because that, what you just said, is the key to our empowerment. When we understand that forgiveness means we're cutting the energetic ties to what we did not want to happen so that we are no longer trapped and stuck and bound in that energy. It is freeing. It is emotional release. It is taking our power back.
you know, I was very fortunate in many ways. It felt like I was prepared for that moment. First of all, I had learned about the power of forgiveness before it happened. Another thing that happened was we, so we had met the mother of a friend of ours. Or, no, we had met a woman, she was the mother, and she had just lost her child unexpectedly. She caught a virus, and over the weekend, she was gone.
Oh
And
my goodness.
years later, the mother is still going like, "Oh why? Oh why? Oh why?" And the thing is, why never gives you, when you ask the question why, it never gives a satisfactory answer.
No, it never does. As if we think if we could just understand the rationale, then we could learn to accept and live with it. There will never be a rationale that says, "Oh, okay, I get it."
The answer will never be satisfactory.
Never.
But the answers to, or the questions to ask is, what can I learn from this? Where to from here? That is how you're going to get unstuck. But, self pity is a drug. You know, it's so when we don't want to forgive, is we playing the self pity game. And that's because Self pity is a watered down version of self love. And we now think, oh, we're giving ourselves some love or we can get some love through self pity, not
Mm.
realizing that real love is way more powerful than self pity.
Oh, I love that visual of it being a watered down version of self love because it does feed us. That is why we go to these pity parties because it is soothing. It does give us the oxytocin and the dopamine hits that soothe and comfort us.
Mm. But self love, is way more powerful. As we can learn from a major master 2000 years ago, is a bit like drink from the well, you'll be thirsty again, but when you drink from the well of living waters, you'll never thirst again. And that is the same with the pity parties. You'll be thirsty again, and you'll throw another one and become the drama queen. And people get tired of you and don't want to spend time with you because it's so draining to be around a person that always has a problem. And I,
Yeah.
I know that because I was one of those. And but when you learn to love yourself more and more each day, and I think we only mastered the day we, you know, freck, when we finish on this planet, then, but it is definitely way more rewarding than the self pity.
Yeah. Hannah, could we go to how did you articulate and really understand that the crap you were dealing with was being the victim? How did that manifest and how did that awareness come about? Part of what I like to do on this podcast is through our stories and our sharing of vulnerable and intimacy, it hopefully will spark some awareness for a listener who says, ah, I wonder if that is equaling this.
Okay. Well, I think I have unlearned some of the crap with the victimhood, but I'm not all there yet. Every now and then it pops up again. So when you asked me earlier, what is the main thing that I had to unlearn? It then dawned on me because again, I'm in a situation right now that is rather tough. That I'm thinking like, I catch myself trying to throw a pity party or starting to throw a pity party of why is never everything, why is, are things not working for me or why is this and that? And I realized that's my victim again. There it popped up again. And then I'll just go like, okay, I forgive myself again for feeling a victim again. It's okay. Let's dust ourselves off and carry on. So even if you've unlearned something, I think it comes, different levels. It's
Oh,
okay.
if we have a core archetype, like one of the survivor ones, a victim or child, I'm trying to remember the other archetypes. We will definitely be revisiting that our entire lives. It
Mm.
is part of the lens that we filter all of our experiences through. But what you just showed was how, once you recognize it, you can recognize it faster and faster each time it comes up. And then you can make a conscious choice because with awareness comes the ability to choose, correct?
Absolutely. And you know what? I went on a course called Positive Intelligence, and they were also talking about the different, they call it saboteurs that we have, and one of them is the victim. And I learned something very interesting. They said those saboteurs come from childhood strengths that then turned overactive and became a saboteur. So the strength of the victim is that they have the ability to feel deeply, and feel empathy and all those emotions so deeply, but then they fell off, went too deep and turned into a victim. But that
Yeah.
helped me to realize, oh, okay, I'm just feeling it deeply now. That's okay. It's like it just, that insight was, okay, let me just focus on the strength of, I can feel this deeply right now. And if I want to transform any emotion, the key is to be willing to feel it, because
Yes.
that's the problem. If we don't feel what we're feeling and we pretend everything is just fine and I'm all positive, but in the meantime, I'm boiling inside with frustration, you know, that's when we get sick. We have to be willing to face that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that perspective. I don't know if you noticed, but I broke into this massive smile when you said that, because what you just articulated was how the universal law of polarity works. And one of the things that I'm always saying when I'm working with my clients is your challenges, your pains are always the polar opposite of your zone of genius, and you're being honed, you're being polished, because the only way your zone of genius, your purpose in life can really be expressed is through the polar opposite. And you just showed such a beautiful example of that, that you are a woman of deep emotional feeling, that you really can feel things on such an amazing level. And I think that sounds like what you have been bringing forward into how you're now helping the world. Am I correct?
Absolutely, because I love guiding people to become aware of how they feel. Yeah, so it's all about, I love working with my clients to connect with those emotions and transform them, because that sets us free. So that's part of the journey. I work with people, and also then the forgiveness that comes along it, because we often have emotions and we feel shame around whatever emotion we were feeling or whatever we um, were going through. And so it's so
Yeah.
important. If we want to love ourselves, we have got to love all of it, crap and all. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about what it means to be a medical intuitive.
right. So I'm trained as a medical intuitive through the theta healing uh, modality. So that is a modality developed by Vianna Steibel, and it's an intuitive, well, medical intuitive says it all. It's making that divine connection, and then there is a one of the courses is about intuitive anatomy. And what that does is you first of all learn about how the body stores different emotions in different parts of the body. So, for example, if we have gut issues, our abuse, anything that we perceived as abuse, real or perceived, if we didn't get that lollipop, that was abuse in our eyes. But of course, there's severe abuse as well. That will hit our gut area. When we have grief or fear of death, it will hit our lungs. So, like with COVID, there was such a fear of death in the air, it hit our lungs. And so we had such lung problems. It didn't have to be so bad if we hadn't amplified that fear of death
Yeah.
around it. So, when I work with a client, what I do is I combine what I learned, and then you go into like a theta brainwave through a little meditation, and then you can scan a client, see where the energies are stuck, And I often feel a slight sensation in my body. Okay, I think something is going on here. And then I'll ask, you work with the divine or the higher, the creator, basically. What is going on here? And then you'll get some ideas that can start a discussion. So that's how it works. And then from there, you work on releasing those things and putting new beliefs in, taking old beliefs out. Yeah.
Wow. One of the things that I did when I was going through my healing journey is when I understood the connection between the energetic and the physical and realized that I had created fibromyalgia in my body because of suppressed traumas and people pleasing and self sabotaging and all these things that I was doing. I didn't consciously choose to create fibromyalgia, but it was my crap and my habits and thoughts and feelings and beliefs and all of that that created it. And so when I realized that connection, I became an energy healer with the modality of the emotion code and the body code. And I became a certified practitioner by using myself as a test case. Uh, is theta healing what you're talking about? Is it something that we can intuitively learn how to do ourselves to heal ourselves, or do we need to go to a trained practitioner?
If you're connected with the divine, if you're intuitive, of course you can do it yourself. The only thing is sometimes you're so in it that you cannot see what is going on. And then you just need an outside person to just point out things that are obvious, but you overlooked it completely. So, for
Yeah,
that reason, sometimes it is good. If you are not able to solve it yourself, by all means, I am the biggest fan of self help. Um, and so I'll use all of that. But sometimes I still need somebody to work with me because I just cannot see it.
absolutely, absolutely. We have filters within our brains that only allow us to see that which we've chosen to be important. And if we have not had that first initial awareness to say, yes, I want to look for this, we are definitely in the midst of a massive forest. Or another way I like to think about it is trying to find one particular drop of water within an ocean. We know it's there, but that doesn't mean we can see and pick it out and see it. We do need that external mirror, that external uh, perspective that gives us contrast and clarity to be able to see these things.
But I'm glad you used my favorite word, mirror. You see,
Ah,
because if you are willing, a lot of people are not that willing, but if you are willing to look at everything as a reflection of your inner being, then you can find a lot of those hidden things. But you have to be willing to look at that crap that you see in the other person and acknowledge it's also in you. But now you know what to look for. So, for
yeah.
example, if you see people treating you badly or are rude to other people, check, "Hmm, how rude am I to me?" Maybe not rude to other people. Most likely we are not rude to other people. But how am I treating me? And then we
Mm,
change that, and then everything else changes. If I if people around me don't believe in what I offer, then I've got to look at, well, am I really believing in what I can do? And so you you get constant feedback from the
yes.
universe
Yes.
of where a next layer of crap can be found. And if you're willing to look at it, because you're not going to be angry with your reflection just because you look bad. You realize, okay, well, need to put lipstick on my own lips or do my hair or something, you're not fighting with your reflection, but we fight with other people all the time. We fight with the politicians, we fight with these organizations. Everything is a mirror, including the most irritating person in the world. And the
Yes.
more irritated we are, the more we have it. And if we can recognize that, and if we're willing to look at ourselves and forgive ourselves for being just like that person, then we can do a lot.
Absolutely. That is one of those crap things that so many people cannot wrap their head around, that everything is a feedback loop. Everything is information about what we are filtering. Because if we didn't have a strong reaction, it wouldn't even come into our conscious awareness. It would just be part of the information that just goes by and we don't even become aware of it. That's part of what the reticular activating system within our
Exactly.
brain does, is it's all that filters. So when someone pisses us off, or we have a trigger, or any strong emotion, look at it, because that is our soul talking to us. That is the information that's saying, hey, I'm trying to get your attention.
Yeah. And the thing is, the closer they are to home, so if they live in your house, for example, the more important the message. And then too often
Mm,
people think, oh, this husband or my wife or my partner can't stand them. You know, let's get rid of them, get version 2.0 in. You didn't change, so you're going to attract the same person, different clothes
yes,
on.
yes, yes, yes. That is so true, because we only bring the next version in. And it all, we, the people that we bring into us are what we are trying to unlearn. I read an amazing book. This is 20 some odd years ago, that started my whole awareness of this. And it was Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God. And when Neil Donald Walsh was writing to God and just venting, just angry, just pouring everything out. How dare you do this to me? And how could you make my life so hard? And eventually he started a process of just automatic writing, where the answers were coming through him, and he ended up having this inner dialogue. But one of the questions that really um, stuck with me for the rest of my life was the purpose of our lives. And in the book, he talks about how the soul says, I want to come to the physical world, and it wants to experience itself. And so we require the polar opposite to show up in order for us to experience it. Because we can't experience daylight without nighttime. We can't experience heat without cold. We must have that contrast in order to experience it in the physical world. And so we draw to us all the opposites of what it is that we are trying. So when we can walk around and feel like a victim, instead of taking that awareness of, I am being surrounded by everything that is shining its light on my soul's purpose.
Yeah, I agree with you that things, yeah, come to us and that we need the polarity. Now, have you ever heard of the Course in Miracles?
Yes.
So
I have
there,
it on my shelf, and I will admit that I have picked it up and started it numerous times.
good.
I enrolled with Marianne Williamson's program to learn it, but that's a tough one. I think I might actually be ready for that again now. Thank you for reminding me of it.
Okay, cool. That's good. Well, there is one book called Disappearance of the Universe by Gary Renard. Gary
Oh,
R. Renard. That gives a great insight on it. Then a lady called Carol Howe has made recordings of all the lessons of the workbook that you can work,
mm.
just short videos. Well, they are audios actually, 5 to 10 minutes a day that you can now listen to work through the workbook. But what the whole thing, why I brought it up, is they are about teaching non dualism. Because if you think of it, darkness is just the absence of light. Cold is just the absence of warmth. And when we start to realize, I don't need the duality anymore because there is only love, there is only, yeah, what is, and the absence of what is, then we can move away from the need for duality. I haven't mastered it yet, but I'm working on it. But that's the way to go.
So, what does that look like when we're living in a physical world that requires contrast in order to delineate me from this book in front of me or the camera so that I can have this contrast to really create spatial awareness? Because if everything is all energy, which I get on a cognitive level, and I talk about it all the time in all of my books. If everything is energy, that's great. But that's on the energetic realm. How do you suggest that we live in the physical realm without duality?
Mm, that's a good question. Um, I think the whole thing is that you can observe it without getting sucked into it. I think
Oh,
realizing I can enjoy life without having to have pain in order to enjoy life. How many times do you hear people say, oh, yeah, we need the pain in order to enjoy the life, to experience joy? But what if we can experience joy without the pain? Why do we need to have the pain? I don't know. I'm not,
well,
and then,
yeah, you actually brought up a really good point with that because another life lesson that I got from Dr. Wayne Dyer, I
mhm,
remember him saying that he met with somebody who had lost a loved one, like within a day or something, and the man was very happy. And Dr. Dyer said to him, how are you not suffering? And he said, well, the suffering has to end at some point, so I get to choose. And so he acknowledged the pain and the suffering of losing this loved one, but then chose to accept it and move on faster rather than living in a place of darkness for a certain amount of time. That we have that choice. And so
exactly.
many times, and so many times we're caught up in the moment and the expectations and the shoulds of what it's supposed to look like and how long we're supposed to grieve and how much pain we're supposed to suffer. And that was another thing that I'll never forget that he had said was, I cannot suffer enough to undo this.
And we cannot suffer enough to undo the pain for others either.
Mm, yeah.
Now, the interesting thing is that there was a thought that came past and it flew out again, but it was on that side. Oh, yes, on resistance. The only reason why we suffer is because we resist what is.
Yeah.
So I could forgive my what happened with my husband because oh, really quickly because I did not resist what happened. Yes, I was sad. I had my moments of pity parties because I knew I do have to cry my tears, but I did my best not to resist it. Because just think of it. Think of something that is happening. Why is it painful? Because you don't like it. That means you're resisting it.
Yeah. Well, we've also been taught that there's a pill for every ill, and that if we're in pain, if we hurt, that is a sign that we should stuff it down. We should avoid it. We should, at all costs, not feel any pain. When we will accept pain in certain circumstances, we will accept pain when we're weightlifting and we're choosing to build our muscles. We know that our muscles require that amount. We accept pain when it's a feedback loop, when we touch a hot stove and we say, oh, yes, thank you for alerting me to that. That's hot. That's not good for me. But you're right, when we put in resistance and say, I don't want to feel this pain. I don't want it to happen. It shouldn't happen to me. I shouldn't be going through this. Those words, those shoulds, is what creates depth of pain that can suck people into such a dark vortex.
Absolutely. And it's unnecessary.
So, resistance to reality, resistance and acceptance. Those two are the polar opposites. If we can move from resistance to acceptance, we don't have to like it, like you said earlier. You didn't like the fact that the man you married, that you thought you're spending the rest of your life with, ended before you wanted it to. Now, you gave him the gift of him spending the rest of his life with you.
True. True. I hadn't
And,
thought of that.
and and when we are able to change our perspective and look at things from a different lens and a different angle, that's where we come up with our empowerment. That's where it all comes from, the self-knowledge and the self-acceptance.
That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. We have to really, no, I don't want to use the word have. We don't have to do anything if we want to change things. Now, it's important that we accept what is, but people resist because they think if I accept what is, that's going to keep me stuck there. But that's not true.
Mm.
It's accepting our starting point. You know, when you're on the map, if you look at a map and you want to plot where you want to go, there are 2 points you need: where you want to go and your starting point. And if you don't
Yeah.
know, and if you don't accept your starting point, you can never plot a route to where you want to go. So accepting just means I'm accepting how it is for now. Up till now, this is where I've been. Doesn't mean to say I have to stay there. I can go anywhere I want to go, but I have to accept where I am right now.
Which can be translated into every area of our life, from our weight to our health to our relationships to our money to anything. When we stay in a place of anger and resentment that this was not supposed to have happened, and the regrets of I wish I had have done this, or we we always are doing the very best we can with what we have at that time. And when we can accept it, we're coming at it with a new set of eyes, a new set of information that says, from here on, I can choose a different path.
Now, to add something which is very interesting is that when we are resisting, our brain physiologically goes into survival mode because we basically feel threatened by the current situation. Now, I
Yeah.
don't know, as an educational kinesiologist, I have been trained a bit about the brain. So we got the back brain, then you got the two hemispheres, and you got the prefrontal cortex. Now, when we are stressed, one of the halves switches off for a large degree. Then the prefrontal cortex switches off up to 85%. So basically, you got like a quarter of a brain left. And you wonder why you behave like a moron. You can't make any wise decisions. You don't have the insight because your insight and your problem solving capabilities and your ability to feel compassion and all those wonderful qualities that we can have as humans are out the window.
Yeah.
But if we accept this is how it is, crap and all, now the whole brain can be of service again because I'm now not in survival, I'm not resisting.
Yeah.
You have a way better chance of finding a solution to move
Yeah.
forward and out.
Yes. That brings me to a personal story that I feel I need to share at this moment. I lost both of my parents within 7 weeks of each other, and they were living in another country. They had my maternal grandmother, who at the time was 94 years old, living with them. I made a deathbed promise that promised that I would not move my grandmother from there. If I had have known at that time, almost 20 years ago, that my what you just said, that we're operating on 25% of our brain, I wouldn't have made the life changing choices that I did, that I made, without being able to bring in my cognitive awareness and my problem solving thinking and my creative solutions. Instead, I went automatically into my crap, my place of immediately everybody else comes before me, and self-sacrifice was my um, Achilles heel, my victimhood. And if we can have that cognitive awareness, which is why these conversations are so important, and say, "Oh, I just had a major trauma happen. Am I thinking clearly when I'm in these major life changes?" I know it can take up to a year, depending on how much resistance I have to this. This is not the time to be making big life choices.
Absolutely. And that is the time to not just think things through, but ask for divine guidance. Ask for guidance from, for signs. Is this the right thing for me to do? But thinking back of it, I mean, I remember listening to one of your podcasts and I heard your story before, and I realized, but you had to go through that. Otherwise, you would never have unlearned your crap. You
Yes.
had to get ill. Be-
Yes.
because what I've learned about all these autoimmune disorders, it's all about an allergy for self. It's not liking yourself in one shape or form. And as
Mhm.
you said, you didn't like yourself enough. You put everybody first
Yeah.
until you got so sick that you couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So at that time, that probably was the best solution because you maybe didn't have the wisdom then that you have now.
Absolutely. Which is why I have these conversations on these podcasts, is so that people can hear it, and it'll be in the back of their mind, and hopefully they can unlearn their crap a little bit faster than allowing it to just deteriorate and get to the point of a total breakdown to have a breakthrough. I don't believe that's necessary.
Oh,
Now,
I
Hannah,
agree.
you said one thing in that last that I want to circle around to. You had said that that's a time to ask for divine help. but I also think it's time to just ask for help. People like you. If somebody who's listening to this podcast is feeling drawn to you, could you please tell them how you help and how they can find you?
Yes, I can. So I'm a great believer also in self help. So I have a gift for your listeners, a self health, I call it a self health tool because it also creates health and it's a great help. And all they have to do is go to hannakok.com. Now, I know English speaking people, they cannot help but put a H at the end of the Hannah. So there are two domains. You can either go to the Hannah with or without the H, but the surname is KOK. So you go to hannakok.com. When you go to that page, you can sign up for my free I Thrive app for 35 days. Don't have to have a credit card. If you come to a page that you have to put a credit card in, you pressed on one button too far. Just go back and do it again. On that page you're on, you can sign up. Then once you're on there, you'll have access to my email. My social media is on there as well. I'm always a bit reluctant with Facebook and things like that because when you befriend people, then all of a sudden they want to have a date or they want, I don't know what they want. So rather sign up for my gift. It can already assist with some of the issues that you have. There's ways to build confidence. There's ways to get rid of your allergies, to hormonal imbalances. Great tools there. You get
Wonderful.
also a good idea. And there is a forgiveness course on there, a video course, as you sign up for that as well. So I
Oh,
think
wonderful.
best is to go there and then you will get on my email list. You can unsubscribe if you don't like what you're getting, but at least then you have a way of contacting me through email. That would be the easiest.
Well, I will definitely make sure that in the show notes as well as on the video version of this, that link will be shown. I, I will make sure that on the video version of this podcast, it will have the link showing there, but it will also be a clickable link within the show notes. I want to thank you, Hannah, for coming and spending this time with me and my audience. Your wisdom, your insight, your perspective has been an absolute joy. And I know that we will have made a difference in somebody's life. And I am so excited to have been able to introduce you to my Unlearn the Crap podcast audience. Thank you for your time.
And I want to say thank you so much for this opportunity, and to the listeners, thank you for taking time to listen to this podcast. I think it's wonderful that you are investing in yourself to unlearn your crap.
I could not agree more. And with that, it sounds like a perfect segue to be able to say challenge everything so that you can achieve anything. You are here for a purpose to live with peace, passion, and prosperity, and that your soul is calling you. All you need to do is unlearn your crap. Until next time, I'm Kathy Baldwin, and I am thankful that you were here with us today. Thank you for listening to the Unlearn the Crap and Level Up podcast. If this conversation spoke to you, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and leave a review. That simple act helps amplify this important work of unlearning the crap that holds us back. This show is built on the foundation of my 3 books: Unlearn the Crap and Level Up Your Soul is Calling, a roadmap to release what no longer serves you. How I Unlearned My Crap, which is my raw story of breaking free and the patterns that I needed to unlearn. And the third book, The Unlearned Life, an AI powered ritual system for truth transformation and personal empower. If you're a podcaster or you want to be, this is for you because 85% of podcasts fail. Not because of the message isn't powerful enough, but because the back end can be overwhelming. I created the Finally Podcast automation system so your voice doesn't become a statistic. Your message is too important to be silenced by burnout, tech chaos, or even wasted time. My mission is to support not only my guests and you, the audience, but also every podcaster who's ready to level up. So until next time, keep unlearning, keep leveling up,